ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते नारायणाय। ॐ नमो भगवते नारायणाय। शुक्लाम्बरधरं विष्णुं शशिवर्णं चतुर्भुजं प्रसन्नवदनं ध्यायेत् सर्वविघ्नोपशान्तये। अनन्तसंसारसमुद्रतार नौकायिताभ्यां गुरुभक्तिदाभ्यां वैराग्यसाम्राज्यपूजनाभ्यां नमो नमः श्री गुरुपादुकाभ्याम्। अञ्जनानन्दनं वीरं जानकी शोकनाशनं कपीशमक्षहन्तारं वन्दे लङ्काभयङ्करम्। कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकीनन्दनाय च नन्दगोपकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः। गोविन्दाय नमो नमः। गोविन्दाय नमो नमः। यदङ्घ्रिपङ्केरुहरेणुलग्नं निपीयनीरं विमलान्तरङ्गः जानामि तत्त्वं निजमात्मरूपम्। जानामि तत्त्वं निजमात्मरूपम्। तं नौमि नारायणतीर्थमार्यं। तं नौमि नारायणतीर्थमार्यम्। Namaskaram, all of you. Welcome to the 63rd session of Krishna Leela Tarangini, which happens to be the third session under Tarangam 8, elaborating Ragasri-Leela not only from the prison of Narayana Tirtha, but also from Srimad Bhagavatam and Sri Narayaniyam, and occasionally from other works such as Krishna Karnamritam and Yadavabhyudaya. As you all know, Yadavabhyudaya is by the greatest of Vaishnava Chakravartis, Vedanta Acharya or Vedanta Deshika, who lived in the 13th century for more than 100 years. And the famous commentary for Yadavabhyudaya was from Advaita Chakravarti, Appaya Dikshitar. In the previous session, namely session 62, we saw the Vedanta Saram from Ishavasya Upanishad highlighted in a single Geetam, Mrigayata Radha Madhavam by Sri Narayana Tirtha. While at one level, we notice the apparent and often expressed jealousy of the gopis, precluding them to share their love with Krishna, on the assumption that Krishna did not love anyone else other than that specific gopi, all the gopis grudgingly addressed to one another, however, In the words of Narayana Tirtha, Shri Madhava often, if not most of the times, as Radha Madhava. We often noticed the dissertation on Bhagavatam, the same aspect. In one of the Bhagavata slokams, well quoted often by most Acharyas, this aspect has been highlighted. Anaya aradhito nunam Bhagavan Haririshwaraha Yenno vihaya govindaha pritoyam anayad rahaha. This is Dasmaskandam, chapter 30, sloka 28. Anaya aradhito nunam Bhagavan Harihi Ishwaraha. The gopis said this in jealousy, but ironically ecstatic as well, since Radha was able to capture Sri Krishna completely. Certainly, this particular gopi has perfectly worshipped the all-powerful Govinda, and thereby he was so pleased with her that Bhagavan Krishna abandoned the rest of all of us and took Radha to a secluded place. This is how the confession comes from the gopis. Yenno vihaya govindaha pritoyam anayad rakaha. Swami Tapasyananda, who lived between 1904 and 1991, head of Ramakrishna Mission, observed that the name Radha is interpreted through grammatical devices out of the expression Aradhita by the Bangla or Bengal school of Vaishnavism, in whose theology Radha is very essential, or she is an essential deity. Theologically, Radha is exalted into the Swarupa Shakti, or the inherent power of Sri Krishna, and a spiritual principle whose expression in the Jiva is Bhakti. In other words, the very expression is Bhakti, not through Bhakti. Radha at Vrindavanam is only her Swarupa manifestation to fulfill Bhagavan Krishna's mission of teaching divine love, Prema Bhakti, to humanity. In fact, all the Gopikas are but prolific emanations of Radha. Srimad Bhagavata is said to have taken its present shape some 2000 years ago, or maybe less than 2000 years ago. It's only in the Puranas that came much later, such as the Brahma Vaivarta Purana, Padma Purana, and the likes of such, where Radha and her friends like Chandravali make significant, if not prominent, appearances in the descriptions. Sri Krishna, who became subservient to or dependent on only one of all the Gopikas, as mentioned in those Puranas, appears in this specific instance as a friendly master to Bhagavan himself. Sri Narayana Tirtha believed to be the last of the three Kali Yuga incarnations of Sri Vedavyasa after Jayadeva and Kshetrajna, blissfully uses Radha's name generously all over Tarangam 8 of Krishna Leela Tarangini, as we saw recently that he made his gopis address Krishna as Radha Madhava in Mrigayata Radha Madhavam Saki, and will do so in many songs that are going to follow in Tarangam 8 as well as occasionally in Tarangams 9 to 12, wherever there is appropriate reference. Let us therefore spend a few minutes now as to the origin of Radha and how she became blessed to be the master of the greatest master of all universes, namely Master of Krishna, who himself is the creator and the cause and everything, if not Sammam Bonam Brahman. According to the Shiva Purana, in the second major chapter and third subchapter, Radha, the wife of Krishna, was born as the daughter of Kalavati, who was originally cursed by Sanat Kumara due to an aberration. The Purana states that Sanat Kumara once said to the three daughters of Swada, namely Mena, Danya, and finally Kalavati. Swada was one of the 24 daughters of Daksha Prajapati through Prasuti, and who herself was one of the three daughters of Swayambhuva Manu and Shatarupa. Therefore, Sanat Kumara addressed Mena, Danya, and Kalavati, O the three daughters of Pitrus or forefathers, especially referring to Kalavati. Listen here, but with some pleasure to my words that will dispel your sorrow and bestow happiness on you. I know you are suffering from grief and sorrow because of my curse, but the words I am going to give you now will bestow happiness on you. The youngest of you, namely Kalavati, shall become the wife of the Vaishya king Vrishabhanu, and at the end of Dwapara Yuga, Radha shall be born as Kalavati's daughter. That's going to be the biggest blessing for you. Kalavati, by the virtue of Vrishabhanu, being the most virtuous king, shall become a living, liberated soul and attain Goloka along with her daughter Radha as well. Sanat Kumara concludes saying, there is no doubt. These are my pronouncements. This is meant to happen. And Sanat Kumara continues, you, the daughters of Pitrus, namely Kalavati, shall shine in heaven by the vision of Vishnu. Your evil actions have been already quelled. Kalavati's daughter Radha, resident of Goloka, that means Goloka Vasin, shall become the wife of Krishna by uniting with him, however, in secret love while in Vrindavanam. So this is also confirmed by Devi Bhagavatam in the 9th chapter, in first subchapter, and also Mahabharatam in Adi Parva chapter 11, both of which state that Radha as Sri Krishna's dearest consort is none but Sakshat Shri or Mahalakshmi. Radha is considered to be one of the two manifest forms of Lakshmi Devi. When Krishna lived in Goloka as a human being, Radha was his dearest consort. But when he lives in Vaikuntha as Chaturbhuja Mahavishnu, Lakshmi becomes his dearest consort. So there is no distinction between Mahalakshmi and Radha as per both Devi Bhagavata and Mahabharatam Adi Parva. Other versions about the birth of Radha are also given in other Puranas. As per Brahmavaivarta Purana, she was born in Gokulam as daughter of Vrishabhanu and Kalavati, and chapter 2 of Brahmavaivarta, section 49, and also in sections 35 to 42 and 56 to 57, Brahmavaivarta repeats this information in one way or the other, maintaining the connection of Radha between Vrishabhanu and Kalavati as the dear child. Narada Purana highlights it in the second major chapter, 81st subchapter, about Radha's birth to Vrishabhanu and Kalavati. According to Padma Purana and Brahma Purana, Radha was found as Ayonija or Bhumikanya or the earth girl when King Vrishabhanu was preparing and tilling the ground to conduct a yajna. You may recollect how Janaka was fortunate to have Sita at the end of a plow when he was also preparing and tilling the garden. The same way here, when the great Raja Vrishabhanu was preparing the ground and tilling it, which is a very conventional action or wisdom by all kings in that time, he found the Bhumi Kanya as Ayonija. She was not born to any human being. So Radha was an Ayonija as per Padma Purana and Brahma Purana chapter 7. Radha was born from the left side of Krishna according to Brahma Vaivarta Purana, which is mentioned in 4 places. At the time of Krishna's birth, Vishnu asked his attendants to be born on earth. And Lakshmi Devi was listening to the command and she eagerly said, why not I also be part of this particular command that you are giving to all your attendants? At one level, I am also your attendant. Mahavishnu says, yes, go ahead. Lakshmi Devi took birth as Radha, as the consort of Krishna in Gokula under the star Jeshta in the morning of Shuklashtami day in Bhadrapada month. This is once again highlighted in Adi Parva section 7 in Mahabharata. Krishna once went with Viraja, a Gopi woman, to the place of enjoyment, namely Rasa Mandalam. Knowing about it, Radha followed them to the Mandalam, but both of them were not to be seen. On another occasion, when Radha found Viraja in the company of Krishna and Sudama, she, in uncontrollable rage, insulted Krishna, whereupon Sudama, who was the closest friend of Krishna, got so upset and cursed Radha to be born in human womb and experience the pangs of separation from Sri Krishna. This aspect has been highlighted in chapter 8 of main chapter Narada Purana. Brahma Vaivarta Purana also continues this description in the second chapter, 49th Anuvakam. And Radha cursed Sudama in turn because she is also a very powerful lady, Mahalakshmi's avatara and Ayonija. If I am going to be cursed to be born in a human womb, according to you, Sudama, you shall be born in the Danava dynasty. So then you will understand the pain of becoming a Danava. It was an account of this curse of Radha that great Sudama, who was the dearest friend of Krishna, had to be born as the Asura called Shankachuda. This is again Brahma Vaivarta Purana, 2nd canto, 4th chapter, 9th subchapter, 34th slokam, giving the reasons why Sudama became Shankachuda. Radha is considered to be one of the 5 forces or Pancha Pranas which help Vishnu in the process of creation. Devi Bhagavatam goes pretty elaborate in the first chapter of the 9th canto as to what are these 5 forces which help Mahavishnu in the process of creation. And Narada Purana, 2nd canto, 81st chapter, gives more credence this analysis from Devi Bhagavatam. Radha is the mental power of Sri Krishna as seen under the Panchaprana theory. In Shakta philosophy, Radha was a Shaktapita mentioned in the Kularnava Tantra. Many of you who are into Devi Bhagavatam and Shakta philosophy are aware Radha is a Shaktapita per se, as per the Kularnava Tantra. The Kularnava Tantra is an important 11th century scripture or work for the Kaula school of Shaktism. It refers to 18 such Shaktapitas, each Shaktapita being a Radha, because the Pita itself is known as Radha, which is defined as a sacred sanctuary of Devi located very much here on this earth. According to this legend, there are total 51 such Pitas or sanctuaries on earth created from the corresponding parts of Devi's body. This is all in Shakta, especially in the Kularnava Tantra. Radha refers to the eternal consort of Sri Krishna and the embodiment of the Hladini Shakti or Hladini potency known as Mahabhava Swarupini, the personification of the highest ecstasy of divine love. She is the source of all the gopis, the queens of Dwaraka, and the Lakshmis of Vaikunta, all highlighted in Shri Brihat Bhagavata Kathamrita or Brihat Bhagavatamrita. Let us now listen to Narayaniyam, Sloka 4 from Dashakam 67, and then take it up further on this aspect. Tirohite tattvai jatatapaha samam sameta कमलायताक्षः तिरोहितेत त्वयि जातताप समं समेत कमलायताक्षः वने वने त्वां परिमार्गयन्त्यो विषादम् आपुः भगवन्नपारम् हा चूत हा चम्पक हा कर्णिकार हा मल्लिके मालती बालवल्यः हा चूत हा चम्पक कर्णिकार हा मल्लिके मालती बालवल्यः किं वीक्षितो नो हृदयैकचोरः इत्यादि तात्त्वत्प्रवरणाविलेपुः त्वदात्मिकास्ता यमुना तटान्ते तवानुचक्रुः किल चेट्टिदानि विचित्य भूयोऽपि तथैव मानात् त्वया विमुक्तां ददृशुश्च राधाम् तिरोहितेत त्वयि जाततापाः समं समेताः कमलायताक्ष्यः वने वने त्वां परिमार्गयन्त्यो विषादमापुः भगवन् अपारम्. Bhattadri says, O Bhagavane Krishna Guruvayurappa, of extraordinary attributes, you command worship from all around you. When you disappeared unexpectedly from the sight of these gopis, the pride and arrogance exhibited by the gopis that they were so important and specially fortunate to have you one-on-one completely vanished from their hearts. They all became uniformly filled with the dejection of having lost you. The whole concept can be explained in a very mundane manner of viraha, or the most fortunate bhaktas for a split second missing Bhagavan from within. That can also be explained in a very Vedantic style. Formerly, they had in the happy times separated from each other and forsaken togetherness. But now when they all found themselves faced with the same grievous situation, which is no different from one another, they all came together again and became one, engrossed in only one object, namely the sole object of locating you, and searched for you everywhere in the forest. This has got a great implication when Bhattadri said this. The like-mindedness of those faced with the same sad situation is usually well known in the mundane world that you and I can understand. We display reluctance to even look at others when we are immersed in worldly pleasures and when we are very fortunate and filled with all the material comforts that we have, and when we are slaves to arrogance and pride beyond reproach because we are the most fortunate. We don't even want to turn around and look at our neighbors because we are so special. Our education is superior. Our competence is unquestioned. Thereby we have been blessed with everything in this world. What else to look for? But when the grief befalls us, we start being solicitous towards others, equally grieved like us, and together as friends in distress, seek to find a way out of the situation. Although this may sound to be somewhat mundane, look at the stock market situation. When people are making tons of money because the stock market is going up and up and up and up, one doesn't want to confide with the other, like one gopi doesn't want to confide with the other gopi. Everyone is calculating how their stock went up and what it used to be last year and prior year and how much money they are sitting on top. When a crash occurs, we start making phone calls to one another and say, oh my God, you know how much I lost? I not only lost my shirt, but I lost everything. And then everybody starts crying about their loss. So only in loss and in grief, we start sharing. But when we are really happy, we are very secretive. We don't even want to share our happiness. It is this kind of frame of mind that we see now in Gopikas, all heartbroken at the disappearance of Sri Krishna from them. Are not these Gopikas wandering in forest after forest looking for Sri Krishna? Really, Jivatman rid of their arrogance, eager to attain Paramatman, the Supreme One? Yes, wondrous indeed is the capacity of the ancient sages, well versed in the legends of the past, to depict the essence of the most complicated philosophical principles contained in the Upanishad in simple expression, comprehensible even to the common man. In this context, the Gopikas, full of concern for their beloved Krishna, although a part of them tells that he is an offender, or like heroines classified as Virahodkantita Manaha, love on account of separation of the beloved, they are all classified under common Viraha now. Now they have no more secrets. They are willing to share their pain and grief to one another at the most crucial time, at the termination of the amorous sport. Another situation is today's banking world. In the last few days, everybody's lips, people are talking about whether their money sitting in several banks are safe, because one big bank fails. Everyone is worried about what happens to their savings. This is the kind of thing that the gopis are also enjoying or grieving concurrently at the same time now. But they all get together. Now you can appreciate our last session wherein Tirtha sang about the gopis' plight running from one pillar to post or one tree to the creeper. Madhavam darsaya he mandara, Madhavam darsaya. Madhavam darsaya he mandara, Madhavamiha radhika aradhitamata. Sadhaka janapala sadhakam aduna Madhavam darsaya. Oh Mandara tree, show us where Madhava is. Kindly show us. We lost him. Show us here our Madhava, who is adored and worshipped by Radhika especially, and who bestows on the performers of austerities the fruit thereof. The reason why they told Mandara, the fellow who has been really so dear to Radhika, is if Mandara doesn't want to reveal where Krishna went, at least they can just point out this is where Radhika went. So chasing the path where Radhika went after Krishna, the Gopikas can also follow. That is the trick here. Nanatirtha was using it subtly. In that song, Tirtha through gopis sought the help of all trees, creepers, birds, and even inanimate objects for help in locating Madhava. In Sloka 5 of Dasakam 67, Bhattadri says, Ha Chuta, Ha Champaka, Karnikara, Ha Mallike, Malati, Bhalavalyaha, Kim Vikshito no, Hridayeka Choraha, Ityadi Tas Tvat Pravana Vilepuhu, Ityadi Tas Tvat Pravana Vilepuhu. Oh Bhagavane, those love-lorn gopikas were unable to find you. So they became so desperate, they went around seeking you all over the forest, asking everyone they came across regarding your whereabouts. In the process, they became incapable of distinguishing between animate and inanimate object. They went to a stone. They went something which is inert in the normal parlance, and they questioned and inquired of even trees which were not moving around, creepers which apparently were very weak and they were not even seemingly alive, or the stones wherever they had seen you going that way. This kind of questioning by the Gopikas, stricken by the grief of separation, was such as to engender sympathy in the minds of everyone who listens to their pralambam or plea. Alas, has no one has any sympathy for our misfortune? This is the way the Gopikas have been crying. Oh mango tree, did you see Bhagavan Krishna coming this way? You remember this Krishna who ran away stealing all our hearts? You were witness to that. Oh Champaka, will you tell us without delay where Krishna went and save us from this predicament? Mango tree and Champaka are not responding. So now the less known Karnikara, at least you will oblige us. Did you see Krishna? Spare a moment in giving us a reply. None of them is even looking at us. Perhaps being males like Krishna, these trees also have no sympathy. Now all of a sudden Gopika are saying the trees are all males. That's why they're useless. They have no compassion for the grief of us being women. Let us therefore ask creepers who belong to our gender. Trees are useless because they are like males, whereas creepers are like women. Oh Jasmine, oh Malati, did you see Krishna? Why are you two not saying anything? They too, being immersed in the happiness of embrace of trees, which are their lovers, have no sympathy for our grief. This is the twist that Gopikas are giving. Creepers are also not responsive because they are around the trees, which are the males. Oh, tender creepers, did you see Krishna? At least you should speak the truth because the others won't, but you can. Why are you not too responding? Well, finally, they say all these things seem alike, whether they are creepers or trees. So, repeating the question often and on and doing constant plea and crying and not getting any response, the grief stricken Gopika started wailing loudly. Oh Bhagavane, did not the lamentations of those hapless Gopikas wandering all over in such a few touch and evaluate your merciful heart? Is not the intense anxiety of those Gopikas an example of every devotee desirous of attaining your feet? Was it not similar to that? Oh Bhagavane, I too am searching for you along with the Gopikas, and you know how long I have been playing in front of you. This is what Bhattadri says. Where are you? May you be pleased to manifest speedily and bless us. At this place, our minds wandered to many songs that later saints, poets, and acharyas wrote about the plight of the gopis. The 20th century composer Lalita Dasa gave a song which became very popular, simple, yet grand in capturing the above sentiment. Many of you may have heard this song. Kannanai Kandayo, Mallik Kodiye, Kanmani Vannanin Kudal Oseyai Ketayo, Kannanai Kandayo. The song specifically says Kannanai Kandayo, Mallik Kodiye. Whereas some of the popular singers who may not be really putting so much attention to the context or why Lalita Dasa wrote this song, sometimes they end up singing as Alli Kodiye. Alli Kodiye is underwater, whereas Malli Kodi is the one to which in Bhagavata Slokam, Naraniyam, and Narayana Tirtha, everybody address only the jasmine creeper. Kannanai Kandayo, Malli Kodiye. And of course, in the Anupallavi and Pallavi, Lalita Dasa says, வெண்ணிலாவில் அவன் என்னுடன் கழிக்கையில் கண்ணே கண்ணே என்று ஆவலுடன் அழைத்த கண்ணனை கண்டாயோ. என்ன சொன்னான் அவன்? எண்ணமெல்லாம் நான் பண்ணுகிறேன் என்றான். திண்டுமுனை நான் கைவிடேன் என்றான். கண்ணிமை மூடினேன். லலிதா சோதரன் கண்முனிருந்து எங்கேயோ மறைந்தானே. அக்கண்ணனை கண்டாயோ மல்லிக்கொடியே. It's a beautiful song. Due to paucity of time, I simply repeated as prosody. Let us now see what remedy Bhattadri prescribed for this unique and disparate condition of the gopis. In the sloka 7, Bhattadri said, Tvadatmikasta yamuna tatante tavanu chakruhu kila cheshtitani vichitya bhuyopi tataiva manad tvaya vimuktam dadushashta radham. O Krishna of bewitching beauty, those gopikas heartbroken due to separation from you became bereft of hope, not finding you. Despite their long search all around the place in the forest, thinking repeatedly of your form and disposition, they reached the state of identifying themselves with you. During their search, they found Radha too. She was also sailing in the same boat, forsaken by you, Krishna, in a similar manner due to her pride. Yes, each one of them became conscious of the position. Not necessarily Radha or all other gopikas. Everybody said only one thing, I am now Krishna. That is how Bhattadri says, when all the lamentations stopped, when they started absorbing Krishna and the Krishna Anubhavam they had earlier with them, they brought it into their heart. They themselves became Krishna. They realized what a power Sri Krishna gave by going into their hearts and expanding himself there and becoming themselves. Tvadatmikasta yamuna tatante tavanu chakruhu kila cheshtitani. Vichitya bhuyopi tataiva manadi tvaya vimuktam dadrushasya radham. Oh Bhagavani, this state is beyond attainment even by great yogis. Even sages, experts in Veda and Vedanta, conscious of the state and position, who have done thousands of years of penance, have not understood the power of Aham Brahmasmi. In other words, I am not different from, but identical with Brahman. Have to exert much to reach that non-dual state. According to the Advaita Vedanta tradition, the four Upanishadic statements or Mahavakyas indicate the ultimate unity of individual, namely Atman, with Supreme, namely Brahman. The identification of Atman and Brahman comes at a point where the individual loses everything, including the pride of having had Brahman by the side. So the Brahman and Atman become one and the same. That is the state where Gopikas and Radhika ended up to. Prajnanam Brahma. Aitariya Upanishad of the Rigveda says, Prajnana is Brahman or Brahman is Prajnana, meant to denote wisdom, intellect, knowledge, discernment or judgment, whatever you can put it there as Prajnana. I am Atma Brahma is from Atharva Veda, Mandukya Upanishad. And it says, this self is Brahman or this Atman is Brahman. Tat Tvamasi, thou art that. That essence, namely Tat, referring to Sat or the existent, you are. Tat Tvamasi. Chandogya Upanishad says this has been drawn from Samaveda. And finally, Yajurveda says through Brihadaranya Upanishad, Aham Brahmasmi, I am part of Brahman or I am that divine. People who are initiated into sannyasa in Advaita Vedanta are being taught the four principal Mahavakyas as four mantras to attain these higher states in which the individual self dissolves inseparably unto Brahman. That's why they are known as Mahavakyas. But many of you may be aware, there are other Mahavakyas also beyond those four. Ekameva Advitiyam Brahma. Brahman is one without a second, says Chandogya Upanishad. So Aham. Simple. Isha says, Isha's Vasya Upanishad says, I am that. So Aham. Chandogya Upanishad says again, Sarvam Kalvidam Brahma. Sarvam Kalu Idam Brahma. All of this is Brahman. Etadvai tat. This verily is that. This is that, meaning what? This Atman is Brahman. This Atman is nothing but Brahman. So, etadvai tat. Kathopanishad says that. These Mahavakyas are pregnant with infinite power. People need not look outward or consult scriptures. All knowledge is well within you. Having forgotten the totality of knowledge, people seek it outside. Like the Gopikas didn't realize that Bhagavan Krishna was inside. They were searching for him and doing all the lamentation. Finally, once the realization stepped in, they become Brahman themselves. This happens with all of us. We start searching around in books, searching around in your routine prayers, asking every deity possible and every temple possible, doing vratam and tapam and all that, thinking that that's alone going to give us the ultimate realization. So we even have a barter system with Bhagavan. I will give you this much, will you give me that? But that stage is preliminary. Once you cross that stage and get out of the frustration of not getting what you want, then you should know what you really want. Like Gopikas, they did not want the proximity of Krishna for any passionate disposition, but they realized they need Krishna to be well within them. When that stage comes, you know what to ask for and what to beg for, what to solicit. Then Brahman and Atman become one and the same. The Gopikas have lost it in one place and search it for somewhere else. Similarly, we all do it. We lose something and then start searching somewhere else until the realization comes into you. Search for the missing article where you lost it, not where you did not lose it. Supposing you lose your purse or a car key or something, go back on a transaction basis. So where did I keep it lost? Same thing Gopikas realized that they enjoyed Krishna as long as they were all completely engulfed by his greatness inside when they had no ahankara. When the ahankara came in, they lost him. And when they were able to bury their ahankara or burn their ahankara and pleaded and cried for him, Brahman came unto them. So search within. Then you come face to face with your brilliance, namely Prajnana. Prajnanam Brahma. Prajnana gives you the Brahman within you. Here the Gopikas have attained identification with you as a result of intense bhakti or devotion. Whose heart will not be humbled by such devotion? Regarding yourself, themselves as yourself, regarding herself, themselves as yourself, they started enacting your movements, gestures, and pranks on the cool banks of Yamuna River. They sang like you, danced like you. Why? They enacted all your Rasa Leela with one another. Each one of them firmly fancied herself as yourself and others as the lovely damsels. Everybody said, I am Krishna. All of you are Gopikas. Let me do the enactment. Like what Krishna did it to me. This was out of Prema Bhakti. Out of total love, they sought refuge in Bhagavan Krishna. So one gopi was able to seek refuge in the other, thinking that that gopika is Krishna. While so, they came across the grieving Radha who had been forsaken by you. She had become proud with the thought that you, forsaking all the beautiful gopikas, had become attached to her alone. Jayadeva says this beautifully in this 24 Ashtapadis. Jayadeva's Ashtapadi is nothing but Bhagavan, Atman, Brahman, Atman, and Guru, who in this particular instance is a Sakhi, interlude or go between Atman and Brahman. Here, Radha also thinks that Bhagavan was attached to only her and her alone. She even began to fancy that Krishna, you had become submissive to her, and then she became your master, seeing that you did comply with all her wishes like, I cannot walk further. This is what Radha's complaint was. And then she said, Krishna, you must carry me on my shoulder. And Krishna carried her. That was why you had forsaken her, as in the case of other gopikas, on the emergence of pride in her, at that moment you disappeared from her too. Oh, Bhagavane Krishna, even the few who are seen in the world as being devoid of pride and arrogance become afflicted with those evils when they ascend to higher and higher positions of life. The pride that was latent in Radha's heart surfaced when she saw, or rather imagined, that you were attached to her so closely and only attached to her. Alas, pride and arrogance not only upset that which is feasible to accomplish, but also cause the loss of even that which has been accomplished. Oh Bhagavane, pray, bless your devotees that they should not be afflicted by any of those evils, lest they will lose you even after they attain you completely. Leela Sukha's take on such episodes and descriptions are so unique as we have seen in the past. Let us listen to Leela Sukha's Sloka 69 in second canto.
ये ते लक्ष्मण जानकी विरहितं मां खेदयन्त्यं बुधा ये ते लक्ष्मण जानकी विरहितं मां खेदयन्त्यं बुधा मर्माणीव च घट्टयन्ति अलममी क्रूरा कदम्बानिलाग इत्थं व्यकृत पूर्वजन्मचरितं यो राधया वीक्षितः शीर्षं संकितया स न सुखयतु स्वप्नायं मनोहरी.
We just now saw Leela Sukha's description, and this specifically requires word by word analysis because it's one of those most exquisite slokas, both in terms of Sanskrit as well as in terms of the words pregnant with meaning. May that Krishna Radhaya Vikshitaha, who was seen by Radha, Seshyam Sankitayacha, with jealousy and suspicion, talking in his sleep, remembering his previous incarnation. Vyakrita Purva Janma Charitam, remembering his prior Janma, saying, Lakshmana, these clouds torment me. Ete Kedayanti Ambuda, who is separated from Sita, Janaki Virahitam, and these cruel winds, namely Kruraha, winds coming through the Kadamba trees, Kadamba Anilaha, attack me enough in vulnerable spaces. Marmani Vacha Gattayanti Alam. Please, they don't give me comfort. They only attack me. Krishna was sleeping and Radha was watching him. And when she came close to him, enjoying this handsome fellow, and thinking so proudly that she is the only one fortunate to be in such close proximity, came close to him, but suddenly was listening that Krishna was mumbling. And then he started talking in his sleep. She says, my goodness, let me listen to this. I thought I am the only one person who is really shaking him up. But now you look at this. This fellow is mumbling something. So became suspicious, started listening to him. Presumably remembering his Ramavatara, Bhagavan was telling Lakshmana that the clouds gave him sorrow instead of joy because he was separated from Sita, and the breezes which blow through the Kadamba trees carrying their beautiful smell only increases the grief of separation from Sita. The mumbling had these sentiments. But hearing all this, Radha started suspecting that he was dreaming of some other woman, and that's why he was doing the sort of mumbling in a pralamba fashion and started feeling jealous. It was the exact intention of Krishna to create jealousy, as no one could even ever imagine or could reconcile that Krishna was indeed sleeping like an ordinary mortal anytime and mumbling and fumbling in his sleep. That never happened, but Krishna did that deliberately so that Radha will get jealous.
Tatasamam ta vipine samantat tamovatara margayantyaha. This is Bhattadri. Tatasamam ta vipine samantat tamovatara margayantyaha punarvimishra yamuna tatante Brisham vilepuscha jaguhu gunamste Evam bhakti sakala bhuvane nekshitana shrutava Evam bhakti sakala bhuvane nekshitana shrutava Kim shastraugaihi kimiga tapasa gopikabhyo namostu Idyanandakulam upagatam Gokula Buddhavam tam Drishtva Krishna Guru Purapate Pahima Mama Yogat.
And Bhattadri says in Slokam 8 of Dasakam 67, Tatasamam ta vipine samantat tamovataravadi margayantyaha punarvimishra yamuna tatante brisham vilepuscha jaguhu gunamste. Oh Bhagavane, you are all powerful. Thereafter the Gopikas got together with Radha, who is also in the same boat, searched for you till moon set, when the forest became impenetrable on account of darkness, and not finding you, gathered again on the Yamuna banks, once again and started crying. But this time they sang in unison of all your attributes and meditating on your unrivaled excellences, lamented like demented persons, unable to bear the grief of separation. Though darkness had set in and those helpless, frail women did not make any effort to return home from the forest, because their focus completely was only on you. And they remained there without any fear or hesitation or thinking about their families or what's going to happen the next moment, because they devoted themselves to only the prema bhakti on you and the experience they had with you totally surrendering their emotions unto you. That is how they were able to get back you inside them. This was indeed astonishing that their devotion was indeed of the highest order, a state achievable only by great yogis, and that too with extraordinary penance and difficulty. That is why the foremost among Bhagavan's devotees, Uddhava, exclaimed with a voice choked with emotion, as Bhattadri says in Dasakam 76, a little later, in the last slokam of that Dasakam 76 is, Evam bhaktihi sakala bhuvane nekshita nashrutava kim shastrogaihi kimiha tapasa gopikabhyo namostu ityanandakulam upagatam gokulat uddhavam tam drishtva dushto guru purapate pahi mama mayaugat. Nowhere else in the world can we see this kind of devotion, which I have never seen or heard. This is how Uddhava cries, laments, and praises. What is the use of Vedic sayings or even staunch penance? My salutations to those gopikas. They are so blessed. Evam bhakti sakala bhuvane nekshita na shrutava. Ipdi na paakum ipdi kekum ille. Let the entire world prostrate before these gopikas, because no one else in the creation has done so much tapas to get to this state. This episode where gopikas sing of Bhagavan's attributes with unparalleled devotion is beautifully detailed in Gopika Geetam, the essence of Bhagavatam, Dasamaskandam, chapter 31, where Sukha starts with the commencement, Gopya Uchuhu, puts extraordinary expressions in the mouths of gopis to bring out the masterpiece. Those 19 slokams we already saw 2 years ago while doing Narayaniyam, but at the popular request of many of you who have joined only in Narayana Tirtha Krishna Leela Tarangini Upanyasams, I will be talking about Gopika Geetam, although in an abridged style, in the next session. Many of you have been familiar with the art of chanting Sanskrit verses. You will be able to appreciate the exquisite Sanskrit poetry of chapter 31 of Bhagavatam Dasamaskandam. Specifically, the poetic meter of the verses is extraordinarily beautiful. And also, for the most part, in each line, the first and seventh syllables begin with the same consonant and do as the second syllables of all 4 lines. You can enjoy that in advance by going through chapter 31, but we will take Gopika Geetam in the next session at the beginning itself.
पुनःपुलिनमागद्य कालिन्द्य कृष्ण भावनाय समवेदाजहू कृष्णं तदा गमन काभिद कृष्णा जन्मना व्रज सयत इंदिरा कृष्णा शश्वतद्रही तैत दृश्यता कृष्णा दिक्षु तावका त्वयि हृदासव कृष्णा त्वमि चिन्वते शरदुदाशये कृष्णा साधु जागत सरदिनोदर कृष्णा श्रीमुषादृश सुरतनाथते अशुल्कधातिकाय वरदनिघ्नको कृष्णानेक किंवद विषजलाभ्यया कृष्णाव्यालराक्षस वर्षमारुता कृष्णा वैद्युदानस वृषमयात्मजा कृष्णा विश्वधोभयात् वृषभदेवयम् कृष्णा रक्षितामुः खलु गोपिका कृष्ण नन्दनो भवान् अखिल देहिनां कृष्ण अन्तरात्मदृक् विघ्नसार्थितो कृष्ण विश्वभूतये सखमुदेवान् कृष्ण तत्त्वताङ्कुले विरचिता भयं कृष्ण विष्णुर्यते शरणमीयुषा कृष्ण संयुतेर्भया करतरोरुगं कृष्ण कातकामदं शिरसि देहिना कृष्ण शिखरगृहं व्रजजनार्तिहं कृष्ण वीरयोषिता निजजनस्मय कृष्ण सुन्दनस्मिता भज सखे भव कृष्ण किङ्करी स्मरो जनरुगाननं कृष्ण चारुदर्शय प्रणतदेहिनां कृष्ण पापकर्षणं तृणचरानुकं कृष्ण श्रीनिकेतनं मणिवणार्पितं कृष्ण ते पदाम्बुजं कुडुचेषुना कृष्ण कुन्दिगृच्छयं मधुरया गिरा कृष्ण वल्गुवाज्ञया बुधमनोज्ञया कृष्ण पुष्करेक्षण विधिकरीरिमा कृष्ण वीरमुह्यति अदरसी कृष्ण चात्मनन्दना कवकदामृतं कृष्ण सप्तजीवनं कविविरीडितं कृष्ण कल्मषापकम् कवकदामृतं कृष्ण सप्तजीवनं कविविरीडितं कृष्ण कल्मषापकम् श्रवणमङ्गलं कृष्ण श्रीमदाततं भुवि गृह्णन्ति ते कृष्ण भूरिका जना प्रकसितं प्रिय कृष्ण प्रेमभीषणं विकरणं च ते कृष्ण ज्ञानमङ्गलं प्रकसितं विदो कृष्णाया हृदि पुगगनो मना कृष्ण शोभयन्ति चलति यद्व्रजा कृष्ण चारयन् पशून् नलिनसुन्दरं कृष्ण दातते पदं विघ्नाङ्कुरै कृष्ण सीदति दिना कलिलतां कृष्ण कान्तगच्छति दिनपरिश्रये कृष्ण नीलकुन्तले वनरुगाननं कृष्ण विप्रतावृतं गणरसज्वलं कृष्ण दर्शयन् मुहुः मनसि न स्मरं कृष्ण वीरयच्छसि प्रणतकामदं कृष्ण पद्मचार्जितं धरणिमण्डनं कृष्ण ध्येयमापति शरणपङ्कजं कृष्ण सन्ततं तते रमणनन्दनेषु अर्पयादिहं सुरतवर्धनं कृष्ण शोकनाशनं स्वरितवेणुना कृष्ण सुष्ठुशुम्बितम् इतरराग कृष्ण स्मरणं नृणा वितरवीरतेधरामृतम् पठति यद्भवा कृष्णानन्निकाननं त्रुटियुगायते कृष्ण त्वामपश्यता कुटिलकुन्तलं कृष्ण श्रीमुखं च ते जडबुदीक्षता कृष्ण पद्मकृदृशा अतितुतान्वय कृष्ण प्रातुबान्धवान् अतिविलङ्घ्यते कृष्ण युधागता गतिविदस्तव कृष्ण गीतमो गीताय चितवयोषित कृष्ण सत्यजेन्निशि रगति संविदं कृष्ण सृज्जयोदयम् प्रगतिदानं कृष्ण प्रेमवीक्षणम् मृगदुरसियो कृष्ण वीक्षदामदे मुहुरति स्पृहा कृष्ण मुख्यते मना प्रजवनौकसां कृष्ण व्यक्तिरङ्गदे वृजिनचन्द्रिकं कृष्ण विश्वमङ्गलम् त्यजमनार्चन कृष्णावतबृहना स्वजनहृदृजा कृष्ण यन्निषूदनम् यत्ते सुजातचरणं गुरुगं स्तनेषु भीताशनैः प्रियदधीमहि कर्कशेषु तेनादवीम् अटति ततेन किं स्वित् पूर्वादिभिः भ्रमति दीर्पवदायुषाम् इति गोप्य प्रगायन्त्यः प्रलभन्त्यश्च चित्रगा रुरुदुः सुस्वरं राजन् कृष्णदर्शनलालसा तासामाविरभुसौरिः स्वयमानं कम्बुजः पीताम्बरधरश्रग्वी साक्षान्मन्मदः तं विलोक्यागतं भ्रष्टं प्रीत्युत्फुल्लदृशो बलः उद्धस्तुः युगवत्सर्वः तन्वप्राणमिवागतम्